Edie said, my book TAMP is very much about my father's passing, about my relationship with him, and there have been a lot of interesting things that I've experienced after the publication of the book. One of them has been questions about the title TAMP, and it's been interesting to me that people tend to either say that they aren't familiar with the word and they don't know it, or everyone comes with a new experience for what they're like, oh, I know this word because my grandfather always smoked a pipe, or because I worked in a coffee shop, or because there are all these different uses for it that I wasn't even really aware of. So there's not a poem in the book called TAMP, but this is the poem from which TAMP appears and from which I took the title. This is called The Fence Builder. My graves don't rise or sink, the grave digger says, after I show him the place to bury my father. I take in the view as if this valley is what he'll see for eternity. Down the hill, children play outside the elementary school. Sheep pasture around the cemetery. Some people just push their pile of dirt back in, he says, but I tamp the dirt at every level. I'd never wondered why some graves swell and some settle and sag, but the gravedigger's words stay with me. He taps the clay above my sleeping dad, leveling the damp ground, just as the man in the casket taught me to tamp around wooden posts to make a new fence last, packing the dirt and rocks so that the wire is pulled taut, forced to hold tight for at least a generation. Those rhythmic strikes, a refrain for all who take pride in a task well done, those men who work the earth, the fence builder erecting his monuments, and the grave digger and all he lays to rest. And as much as this book is about my dad, the place where I live is also central to the experience of the book. I grew up on a cattle farm with an orchard. There are old barns, there are woods to walk in, and the physical location and place was important to my dad, and so that was one of my inheritances from him. And so there are a lot of poems in the book that speak to that place, and this is one called There is a Barn. There is a barn in this poem, built by men a century ago. No one alive remembers exactly, but someone cut the oaks and sawed the planks, nailed tin sheets to shape the roof. This barn sits by a creek. Some springs the creek overflows and the barn floods. There is a hayloft in this barn and many poles between the rafters where tobacco once hung to cure. Gaps between the boards let fresh air enter. Below the loft, the barn is divided into stables. Horse tack still hangs in some, though no one alive remembers those horses. Out of hard labor, calves have been born here and died. So too, wound-locked mothers. In the last stall, a man I knew stacked square hay bales as tight as mice, though the hay was thick with thistles. The following fall, the cattle were sold, the pastures left fallow. The man died and the hay moldered. Did I mention the barn is black? Its roof too. The man who packed the hay picked the paint, though there were red barns in his history. Perhaps the barn's color doesn't matter, except to me, because that man was my father. God alone knows if it makes any difference. The hay was wasted by all but the mice, always burrowing through the past.